Hello everyone, welcome back to Max Woodworking. On today's video I'm going to go over my router lift and my extension wing and give you a little bit of breakdown about my router lift. I made it. I got the plans from Shop Notes. It's a really good plan, but I'm going to kind of break it down for you a little bit today, and hopefully that you guys will enjoy this video. And stay tuned because we're getting ready to get going. Okay guys, I had to move you around to get you set up so that you could see the insert in my extension wing. The table saw came with these little steel stamped extension wings, and it only came to about right here on both sides. So I really wanted to have the extra wing all the way out just so that I could add this router table. So I made one out of 3/4 cabinet grade plywood and some 1x4s I just trimmed down to fit, and it mounted up really well. But this router lift here is, like I said earlier, I got the plans off of Shop Notes, and this is a Rockler router insert. And I had gotten a template from Rockler as well to lay on here, and a pattern bit, and I routed all this out so that the insert would set flush. And we'll go over it just a little bit better after I take it out. So we're going to go through and take it loose and do a demonstration, and also show you the router fence that I made that attaches to my table saw fence. So alright guys, here we go. We're going to start breaking it down for you a little bit. Alright, I've got several of these inserts, but right now I just have a blank one in here due to the fact that when I'm not using a router, I don't want nothing falling down in the router or getting hung up as I'm using a table saw. So this is one of the inserts that I have. It's very simple to do. What I do is just 3 little screws here. And you take these 3 screws out, and what I'll go ahead and do is I use the router to raise it out. It's a little bit easier than trying to get your fingernails under there. So I just take and use this little tool and raise the insert out. There's the blank that I had in there, and I put this insert in there. And we're pretty much set up, ready to go. But what I'd like to do before I show you this router in action here, and this I'm a little stiff today. But what I'd like to do is I'd like to take the whole lift and insert out and show you some of the pieces on here. Alright, I just have in here right now a round over bit, and it works pretty good. I believe I got that one from Rockler as well. But let's go ahead and set this aside so I can go ahead and take this out for you. It's just 2 screws, 1 in each corner. Whew, that's a loud little noise. Very, very simple to take out if you ever had to work on it or anything else. Just some 2 screws. And lift it up. And twist it a little bit, and it comes right out. Okay. Now you can basically see what the router lift is about. This carriage part here is a 2-piece. It's 3 pieces, 3/4 inch plywood glued together, and as you can tell, it's got 5, I think they're 5/16 carriage bolts that goes through there, and I've got some nuts on there. The plan calls for some star knobs, but I didn't want to take out more than I had to, so I just made it big enough just to get my nuts in here. And I've got one carriage bolt coming back this way and the other carriage bolt going back that way. And what they do, the other part to that is this side of the carriage, and it clamps the router to the router lift. And the plans call for maple hardwood, but I didn't have any maple, so I just used oak and I glued it all together. It's working pretty well. As you could tell when I was raising it earlier, it moves very, very easy. I can sit here and move it by hand. But it's not a lot of slop in there due to you have these set screws on the side. And these set screws add tension to the guides inside, which will allow it to either tighten it or loosen it up, just depending. The adjustment you got to do is after you get it all assembled and run the carriage up and down a couple times to see where your loose spots are, and all that's included in the plans. But it's really simple. Right here it has a piece of 3/4 plywood cut out to the dimensions that's given in the plans, and I got it to the two sides here with some lag bolts. I believe they're 1/4 lag bolts, 1/4 by 2, and the rod assembly here that goes into the carriage. This is just all threaded rod with a couple Teflon locking nuts on each side of this carriage part here. And inside the carriage here is just an all thread coupling. And the plans also show that you shape and grind this and file this down so that a 1/2-inch socket fits it. Well, I decided on mine to drill and tap and use Loctite and put an Allen screw in there. So therefore I got a 3/16 Allen wrench on the end of this tool that I got from Rockler. I thought it works better for me that way, so I don't have such a big hole, and this phenolic is pretty easy to chip. I'll show you, as I was drilling out the hole for this, it even chipped out. So if you see right here, I had to glue this back in place because as I was drilling, it chipped out right here and right here. So like I said, it worked out better for me, and it's really not that hard to turn as is. I always have the switch off as I'm changing the bit, as well as unplugged from the switch for the router over here on the side. It's pretty self-explanatory once you sit here and look at it, what all goes on. You got these little guides here that fastens to the carriage that goes up and down this runner plate, which is essentially just the lumber is just cut on both sides at a 45. This is the one I practice on before I actually cut my hardwood. As you can tell, it's just V-notched there. That I just done on the table saw here, set it at 45, ran it through, flipped it over, and ran it through again. Well, a fasten to the carriage is exactly the same thing. Are these pieces here, and it gives you all the dimensions and everything, the plans. It's a really good set of plans, and I would tell you guys, but you know, I'm sure I feel bad if I take away from shop notes. Anyways, as you can tell how this piece is made, can you see it? I hope so. Anyways, it's done the same way. It's just laid on 45 on the saw, and you just rip it to a 45. And essentially, this part right here that is connected to the carriage sets inside on this guide. And all it does is, as you're moving, it just slides up and down. So it's really, really simple. Really simple design, but also effective. It works for people like me who cannot afford a aftermarket like a Craig or Incra or something like that. So for the time being, this is working out pretty well for me. I've used it several times and really enjoy it. It does a pretty good job, and it saves me from bending down underneath this table. So before I put this router lift and router insert back in here, I wanted to give you guys a view of what this part looks like. Well, it's a little dusty. Okay, I'm going to try to pick you up here so that you can see it. Okay, yeah, I think you guys can see it. Anyways, I laid the template down, used a pattern bit, and got my depth for the thickness of the insert, and just routed that out. And then after I routed that out, the plans for the insert tells you where to cut. And I got some threaded inserts in here and in here, well, actually all the corners. And what that allows me to do is it allows me just the height in case it's just off just a little bit to make it even up top here. And these two inserts here, threaded inserts, are for where I bolt down the router insert. That all works out pretty good, so let's get set up and we'll go ahead and do a test piece on it and see what you guys think. Hold on just a second. Okay guys, this is what we got here. I got it all back in here and got my height adjusted up about where I like the round over to be, and really simple. You seen me earlier, the only thing that we do to raise and lower is just use this, and you can raise and lower it. It works out really well. I'm going to show you a couple different things and a couple different ways that I do this. Anyways, observe safety at all times and make sure that everything is plugged up and on and back together, which I just plugged it back up for the safety of me touching this bit. Well, alright, for this part it's going to be a little bit loud because I'm going to turn the router on and also the shop vac. To let you guys see the difference in the dust, I'm going to do it without the shop vac first. So, alright, here we go. I just got a scrap piece of wood here that I got laying around. Nothing special, just a piece of pine. This is just for demonstration purposes only. So, let's get to work. Okay guys, I don't know if you can see it, but it just a round over bit. It just rounded over the edges. It does a pretty good job, and I was kind of rushing through it, so I didn't get it all too good, but I just wanted to show you that that's how it works. And as you can tell, it gets pretty daggone dusty like that. So what I like to do is I made this fence that attaches to my table saw fence, and I got the vacuum and everything hooked up to it. It's pretty simple to do, just like all other router fences. I just like to make sure that it's setting flush with that bearing. You can use any straight edge and tell, but I think I'm going to lock it down right there. It's going to get a little noisy, but let's go ahead and, so we can really see it, let's go ahead and raise it up just a tad here. You can really see the rollover or round over. This time it's going to be a little bit more noisier because I got the shock vac hooked up to it. So now, I think this, by raising the bit, you can see how much more that it rounded over. I guess it's each to their own. That's a little deeper than I normally like to go on there. So, anyways, I just wanted to show you the difference with the fence and without the fence. I sometimes, like if I'm in a hurry, which I know that we all do, I go ahead and I won't even set the fence up on here, or in case I'm using the table saw also, I leave the fence off and just do it and then clean up the dust a little bit later. So that about concludes what I was going to show you guys about my router fence, my router table, and how I use it in conjunction with the table saw fence. The next video that I'm going to show is I used to have a fence system along my miter saw station there, and it got a little bit cumbersome, because especially if you had any kind of bow in the wood at all, what it liked to do is like to push it out from the fence, and then therefore all your pieces that you cut wasn't really square if you didn't have a really straight piece. So I took that off and kind of got the idea off of the internet, off of Shop Nation. He used, and several others have done it too, but they use what is called a fenceless miter saw station, and they use a stop block. Well, we're going to use this router as a part of the next build, which is just to make a stop block for the miter saw. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I hope that you guys stay tuned for the next one, and I hope everyone has a good night. Thank you.